Michael Jackson's private garage has finally been opened. But what was hidden inside? Or perhaps the better question is, who was inside? Over the years, countless rumors surrounded Michael Jackson, yet some of the most astonishing stories were never splashed across tabloid headlines. According to this narrative, they remained hidden behind the doors of a mysterious garage at Neverland Ranch, quietly collecting dust for years. The story begins with the claim that nearly 15 years after Michael Jackson's death in 2009, a section of Neverland remained sealed off from the public. This garage, untouched for more than a decade, was said to contain not only luxury cars, but also deeply personal pieces of Jackson's private world, frozen in time. The transcript explains that the delay in opening it was attributed to legal complications surrounding his estate, including financial disputes, lawsuits, and the responsibility of preserving his legacy. It also claims that preservation efforts kept the space under climate control, with only a handful of authorized staff allowed inside to maintain the collection. According to the script, the mystery itself became part of the legend, making fans wonder what treasures or secrets could still be hidden behind those closed doors. When the garage was finally opened in 2024, the transcript describes a quiet gathering attended by state executors John Branca and John McClane, preservation experts, automotive historians, and Michael's eldest son, Prince Jackson. Rather than a media spectacle, it portrays the moment as respectful and private, with security present and only a small film crew documenting the event. As the doors slowly opened, those present reportedly described the experience as stepping into a perfectly preserved memory. Among the discoveries mentioned were luxury automobiles alongside more whimsical items, including a custom Peter Pan-themed golf cart that reflected Michael's well-known love of fantasy and imagination. The atmosphere, according to transcript, balanced solemn respect with fascination as family members, estate managers, and automotive experts explored a side of Michael Jackson's life that had remained hidden from the public for years. The transcript then shifts to what it calls the crown jewels of Michael Jackson's collection, describing the first vehicles allegedly revealed inside the garage. At the center of the display was said to be a 1999 Rolls-Royce Silver Seraph limousine finished in a shimmering silver-blue color. According to the script, the real spectacle was an interior reportedly designed by Michael Jackson himself and inspired by the Palace of Versailles. It described an extravagant cabin decorated with 24-karat gold accents, crystal fixtures, and lavish details that reflected Jackson's love of fantasy and luxury. Beneath the hood, the limousine supposedly carried a 5.4-liter V12 engine, producing 322 horsepower. The transcript claims Jackson originally paid more than $200,000 for the vehicle in 1999 and notes that although it was once scheduled for auction in 2009, legal complications prevented the sale from taking place. It argues that the limousine eventually became more than just an expensive automobile. It became a historical artifact connected to Michael's legacy. The next vehicle highlighted is described as a far more personal possession, a 1985 Mercedes-Benz 500 SEL. Rather than emphasizing glamour, the transcript portrays the sedan as Michael's everyday companion during trips between his Encino home and his Los Angeles recording studio, suggesting that some of his greatest musical ideas may have begun during those quiet drives. Powered by a 5.0-liter V8 engine producing 302 horsepower, the car reportedly featured luxury touches, such as automatic climate control, powered seats, a custom sound system, and walnut-wood trim. According to the story, Jackson later gave the Mercedes to his aunt as a birthday gift, and she honored him with a personalized license plate reading, "Tickets MKL, thank you, Michael." The script states that the vehicle was eventually sold at auction for around $100,000, with sentimental history, making it far more valuable than its market price. The final vehicle presented is a classic 1954 Cadillac Fleetwood, described as both an automotive treasure and a piece of Hollywood history because it was reportedly used in the Academy Award-winning film Driving Miss Daisy, featuring Morgan Freeman behind the wheel. Equipped with a 331 cubic inch V8 engine producing 230 horsepower, the Cadillac is portrayed as a symbol of timeless craftsmanship rather than flashy luxury. Auction estimates for the car reportedly range from around $20,000 to well over $200,000, depending on its condition and documented history. The transcript concludes that these vehicles were much more than transportation. They served as symbols of Michael Jackson's imagination, freedom, memories, and personal identity, offering a quiet biography written through chrome, leather, and gold rather than words. The transcript goes on to argue that Michael Jackson's garage revealed far more than an impressive collection of automobiles. It offered a glimpse into his personality, emotions, and lifelong imagination. Rather than portraying the garage as a simple storage space, it describes it as a private museum filled with memories, dreams, and symbols of the life he built away from the spotlight. According to the script, one of the strongest themes reflected in the collection was Jackson's enduring attachment to childhood wonder. Having spent his youth performing under intense public scrutiny, the narrative suggests he tried to reclaim the innocence he had missed through the fantasy world he created at Neverland Ranch. As evidence, it highlights a custom Peter Pan-themed golf cart decorated with colorful Neverland Valley decals, portraying it not as an eccentric toy, but as a symbol of Michael's identity and desire to preserve the childlike imagination that shaped much of his life. The transcript proposes that his vehicles represented more than transportation. They reflected a dreamer searching for peace, privacy, and a place where he could simply be himself. It suggests the collection reveals someone who longed for connection while struggling with constant public attention, using cars and custom creations to build a personal world where he felt safe and understood. The story then shifts to what became of the collection after the garage was opened, explaining that despite widespread speculation, the estate did not immediately auction off the vehicles. Instead, it claims the executors viewed them as important historical artifacts rather than financial assets, even though Michael Jackson's estate reportedly faced enormous debt following his death. According to the transcript, longtime friend and estate archivist Karen Langford stated that the majority of the vehicles would be preserved until Michael's children, Prince, Paris, and Blanket, were old enough to decide their future. The script presents this decision as one rooted not in profit, but in respect for Jackson's legacy and his family, emphasizing that each automobile represented a chapter of his personal story rather than simply another valuable possession. The transcript closes by thanking viewers for watching, encouraging them to like, comment, subscribe, and continue exploring more stories in future videos. The transcript concludes by presenting Michael Jackson's garage as more than a collection of rare automobiles. It frames it as a lasting symbol of his legacy. According to the narrative, when the garage and its contents finally became known to the public, many assumed the estate would sell the vehicles to collectors eager to own a piece of pop music history. Instead, the script claims the estate chose preservation over profit, arguing that the cars represented important chapters of Michael's life, rather than simply valuable assets. Despite reports that Jackson's estate carried significant debt after his death, the transcript says those managing his legacy resisted the temptation to liquidate the collection. It explains that each limousine, classic automobile, and custom vehicle carried memories that extended far beyond their monetary value. Citing longtime friend and estate archivist Karen Langford, the script states that the intention was to preserve the vehicles until Michael's children, Prince, Paris, and Blanket, were old enough to determine their future. According to the transcript, this decision reflected respect for Jackson as both a father and an artist, allowing his family to decide what should happen to the collection rather than treating it as a financial resource. The overall message presented is that Michael Jackson's automobiles were never just machines. They were physical reminders of his imagination, creativity, personal history, and a private life that existed beyond the stage. The transcript ends by thanking viewers for watching, inviting them to like, comment, and subscribe, while teasing more stories in future videos. What these cars revealed about Michael Jackson. When people think of Michael Jackson, they often imagine the music, the moonwalk, the glove, and the larger-than-life persona that captivated the world for decades. But behind the bright stage lights and worldwide fame existed a man with deep layers, some of which were quietly revealed in the most unexpected place, his garage. Yes, his garage. That space, often overlooked in the lives of the rich and famous, became a treasure trove of insight into the king of pop soul. As estate curators carefully combed through his automobile collection, what they found didn't just scream celebrity luxury, it told a deeply personal story. Could a person's choice of vehicles really say something about their inner world? In Jackson's case, it absolutely did. His garage wasn't just a place to park cars. It was a private museum of emotions, memories, and dreams, quietly curated by a man who spent his life in the spotlight, yet yearned deeply for solitude, control, and magic. One of the most striking revelations was Michael's unshakable connection to childhood wonder. For a man who spent his early years working under the glare of studio lights, he never really had the chance to just be a kid. So maybe it makes perfect sense that in adulthood, he clung tightly to anything that felt like a piece of that lost innocence. His collection included a golf cart. Yes, a golf cart that looked like something straight out of a storybook. It wasn't just any cart, either. It was designed with his image dressed as Peter Pan, complete with colorful Neverland Valley decals. To some, it might seem eccentric, even odd, but for Michael, this cart was more than a vehicle. It was a symbol of his identity. It allowed him to be Peter Pan in his own little world, moving from one amusement ride to another across the grounds of Neverland Ranch. Who else but Michael Jackson would create an entire fantasy world and then build a fleet of vehicles to match? So, what do these cars say about the man who owned them? Maybe they say he was a dreamer, one who never quite got over a childhood he didn't get to live. Maybe they say he was someone who longed for connection, but feared the spotlight that came with it. Maybe they tell the story of a man who saw beauty in small things, who used vehicles not just to move from place to place, but to build a world where he could finally feel safe, seen, and understood. And maybe, just maybe, that's what we all want in one form or another. Stick around, because next, we're going to show you how that very garage, yes, the one he filled with dreams on wheels, became an unforgettable part of his legacy. How the garage became part of his legacy. When the doors of Michael Jackson's garage were finally open and his expansive car collection came into the public eye, there was an instant whirlwind of curiosity, speculation, and naturally opportunity. What would become of these vehicles? Some luxurious, some quirky, but all iconic. Would the estate sell them off one by one to wealthy collectors eager to own a slice of pop royalty? That might have seemed like the most obvious route to take. But as it turned out, the people managing Michael Jackson's legacy had something else in mind, something deeper, something that wasn't just about money. It wasn't about a quick buck or flashy headlines. It was about history, legacy, and more importantly, respect. The executors of Jackson's estate didn't jump at the chance to liquidate his automotive treasures, even though the financial strain at the time could have justified such a move. Jackson's estate, after all, was reportedly drowning in a staggering $500 million of debt following his passing. So then, why not cash in on the cars, like so many celebrity estates have done in the past? Well, the answer lies in a mix of emotional weight and strategic foresight. The vehicles weren't just expensive machines with glossy finishes and famous fingerprints. They were pieces of his life, chapters in a story that stretched far beyond the music and moonwalks. From limousines to custom tour buses, each car held a memory, a mood, a moment. According to those closest to the process, like Karen Langford, Jackson's longtime friend and the official archivist of the estate, the decision to hold on to the majority of the vehicles was deeply intentional. She reportedly emphasized that every item, including the cars, would be preserved until Michael's children, Prince Paris and Blanket, came of age and could decide what to do with their father's belongings. In other words, this wasn't just about business. It was about giving his children a chance to make the call when the time felt right for them. Isn't that what any parent would have wanted? With this, we have come to the end of this video. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, do well to like, comment, and subscribe for more content. To enjoy more thrilling stories, click now on the following video that pops up on your screen.